And welcome back. This is Jay Taft with your sports podcast, Not Just a Game. And the name tells it all. We're not talking about just what's going on the field, on the diamond, on the hardwood. We're trying to reach outside the box, off the field, and dive deep into some of our very interesting athletes from our area who some of which have gone on to different aspects in their life, and that's one of these occasions today. I'm going to bring her right in because this is a fun story and we've got to get right to it. Sister Stephanie Baliga, how are you, sister?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a blast. Real quick, you are a former Auburn and University of Illinois star runner. I can say star there. 18, oh, come on, 18 conference championships in high school. I was trying to go through the math, like how in the world could somebody win that many? You cleared it up for me. It's cross country, it's track, and it's the constant championships. And then you went on to U of I, where you had a real successful freshman and sophomore season, then had an injury and a reevaluation of who you wanted to be in the future. I'm dying to hear your story again and to get our listeners an opportunity to hear everything that you are and you went through. So first of all, Stephanie, flashback. Obviously, we always do this. You got to bring us back to the days of
The days of
Auburn.
Rockford.
Yeah, you were also a valedictorian. So I mean, you were all over it back then. What was it like back then? What did you learn from your days at Auburn as a runner and as a valedictorian that got you to where you are? And let's build into this story of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I loved and love Auburn. It's my definitely still my home. So grateful for the many things that I learned and experienced at Auburn High School. Very grateful for those my coaches from Auburn as well as the many teachers who made it possible, as well as just the Auburn is a very special place. It's a great place for to learn lots of things about life, which I certainly did. So that was a really great experience that I have always valued since then. So that's been awesome. Yeah, so I ran a lot in high school and also did a lot of studying, and that was what I did. That was my main thing. So it's pretty much all I did. As you can tell from the things that happened, I didn't really do anything else besides run and study. So that
Conference
was my time at Auburn.
championships and valedictorians. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what you
exactly.
do. Right. So how did that get you to where you are? I know you went to U of I, and I'm assuming you had these aspirations. You could have been some kind of professional runner back in your day.
Yeah, so there was this interesting thing that happened my freshman year in college where I went from being like good in Rockford, which was, good, to being really good,
Mhm.
to being like nationally level good. And if for unknown reasons why I got so fast. It wasn't necessarily any sort of particular training that got me to that point because it just kind of happened. And this has happened to me a couple different times in my life where all of a sudden I just get way faster for no real explanation, no real besides the gradual building up of training over time. So the biggest time this happened to me was my freshman year in college when my times like dropped like for like amazing. Like in a training run, I went from running my PR in high school in the mile on a track was 5:12. I ran a 5 flat mile in practice my freshman year in cross country. So it was just like I don't even know what happened. So this amazing experience of getting really really fast, being really really good, and really loving and enjoying that whole experience.
Incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
now, I mean, Big Ten is the big deal in Division One college for just for any sport, definitely for running as well. And you
Mhm.
were climbing the ranks. So now, what happened your sophomore year? I know we talked about it. You said you cracked your foot in half or something. I mean, what?
Yes, that's exaggerated. I spontaneously fractured one bone in my foot from essentially from overtraining.
Okay.
So I was running 70 miles a week, which for women in college is like not much actually. It's pretty low for women in college. but no, it's true. In Division 1, that's pretty low mileage. So I was running 70 miles a week, and my body said that's enough of that. And so the bone literally just it wasn't a stress fracture, it just cracked. So but it was a pretty good crack. So I was out for a long time.
And
So
a broken foot for a runner is a problem.
that is quite the issue,
Uh,
correct. So I had
just
created quite
checking.
the issue for myself. To clarify, it was a little problem. I couldn't run at all, obviously. So yeah, I was crutching around, being feeling sorry for myself, living the, not doing good on any level of my life. So it really forced me to, because to be honest, I've been super blessed. I'd never had a serious injury. I'd never had any sort of real, honestly, huge problem in my life that had ever made me stop running or stop being physically able.
Which
This is
is
about like,
unusual for a run. I mean, you
yes.
started running when you were 9 or something, right?
Yeah, I went for a very long time without a serious injury. So that was a huge blessing. And honestly, because of a lot of those coaches at Auburn that took care of me.
Mm.
They didn't, so like people didn't overtrain me. I was not overtrained. Unlike many girls who end up in college running, where
Yeah,
they're overtrained
right.
and they step out there and they just tank. So I was blessed. That was a blessing. And but yeah, eventually your body's just like, wow, what are you doing? So cracked my foot. And so but it really forced me to be like, I've made running a god. Running is just like, this really should not be this important in my life. I need to really reevaluate what is actually my priority in life. What am I doing with my life? What is going on in the world? Like, so it just forced me to really think about a lot of things and really start to pray. So I started getting involved with the Newman Center on campus at University of Illinois, which is very big.
Mhm.
That's the center that's associated with the Catholic Church on campus.
Yes, ma'am.
Started to get more involved with some people there. All of a sudden, I had all this free time because I was spending like 5 hours a day running
You
or
didn't
doing
know
running
what
related
that was
things.
like.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, look at all this time. I have all this time. So I was like, well, I definitely cannot sit in my dorm room for 5 hours a day. I have got to do something. So I'm literally going to go crazy. So as everyone's finding out during COVID. So I got out, made some new friends, and I started getting involved with these retreats and different things at the Newman Center, and ended up having a very powerful experience on a retreat when I was injured, at a time of prayer called Eucharistic Adoration, where as Catholics believe that the Eucharist is Jesus really present, completely present with us. I had this experience at this prayer that where I really began to believe that Jesus was really present in the Eucharist. And if that was true, I needed to completely change my life because I was living a selfish, essentially self focused lifestyle that was really, honestly, mostly for self gain, and self promotion. And so that I needed to really evaluate what I was doing. So I did, and I started to pray, and I started to get more involved with on campus with different things at Newman Center, and eventually from this started to discern religious life from that point.
And that's when your life turned, took that right turn off the exit and led you
Yes.
to this amazing world that you're in right now. Right now, uh, you work with the outreach center of the Mission of Our Lady of Angels, which is in Chicago. Is it West Side? What do you
Yep,
consider West
we're in
Side?
West Humboldt Park.
Okay, I know that area well. I didn't realize you were even out there. Is that where the food pantry is? The
That's where I live
no?
too. This is where I
Oh, it
live.
is.
It's
Okay.
our house. It's where I live at where I work.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's and so give us a little idea of how you got there and what you do, and then we'll get into how you've tied running in with what you believe your calling for life is as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up finding this particular religious community. So if you feel like you're called to religious life, you end up like starting to look around. There's all kinds of different religious communities. So I started to visit these different communities and started to try to figure out where I just felt called. Eventually, I ended up here. We're a brand new community. We're called the Franciscans of the Eucharist of Chicago, and we exist to work with the poor, to do evangelization work, and to begin and maintain sites of perpetual adoration, which is that particular type of prayer where we pray with Jesus present in the Eucharist. So right now, we currently during COVID, we're feeding 3,000 families a month with food, which has been extraordinary. Today it is freezing outside, freezing cold, and we served 1,000 people, essentially 980, something of this nature. So crazy. It's just been really crazy. So the food outreach has always been the center of our outreach to the poor, but we also do work we distribute clothing. When it's not COVID, we have prayer services for the neighborhood and hot meal programs for the neighborhood. If you're familiar with West Humboldt Park, it is one of the most violent. The most difficult, everything about Chicago difficulties are here.
Especially, I mean, right, it's grown.
It's bad. So we spend a lot of time, not during COVID, praying with neighbors, spending time eating with neighbors, spending time building relationships to help break down a lot of things that hopefully will decrease the violence and the difficulties that are in our neighborhood. We do a lot of work in conjunction with the YMCA with youth. So we have an after-school program for youth that are from first grade through middle school, which is the prime age for gang recruitment in our neighborhood. So we try to keep kids off the street during those prime years of gang recruitment. I would also like to note that one of my proudest moments of being here was when Auburn High School played Orr High School in the state championship for basketball, because now the new high school in my neighborhood is Orr. So I'm going to give a shout out how that was like the coolest thing ever. I'm just saying. That's just an absolute side tangent. But then anyway, we work with kids because a lot of the kids that were through our after school program played at Orr. So it's kind of like this whole like, whoa, my life. But it was pretty cool. So anyway, so we work with kids, and then we work a lot with senior citizens, because a lot of the seniors they're the moral framework of our neighborhood right now. And then a lot of them are neglected and don't have enough resources. And then most importantly, we live here. So we are part of the fabric of the neighborhood. We exist as Jesus would, to walk among people, to be present with them, to talk with them, to pray with them, to be present in the difficulty and try to be the presence of God in a neighborhood that's filled with difficulty and violence and all kinds of every other problem. So that's kind of what we do here at the mission.
Kind of what you do there. That it kind of takes a special person to do what you do there. It's pretty amazing stuff.
You're blessed.
I would like to thank you. I don't know how or what that means or what, but I hope
you could run the 2021 Bank of America Chicago Marathon for Team Our Lady of the Angels, Jay. That was a great way how to thank me. What do you think?
For comedic relief.
For comedic relief. Okay.
If they have 100-meter dash version, sign me up.
Okay.
I've always been more of a sprinter, Sister Stephanie, than a distance runner.
Okay. Everyone can run a marathon.
Yeah, I know. You'd have to give me a couple years.
Okay.
So maybe this is day one of when that training will start. We'll talk about that off air, okay? But what you've done over there is just incredible, and you're running, and how you've been able to take your past passion, and it's still your passion, I know, but what used to really drive you, and bring it together with what really drives you now, is what is as inspirational about this story as anything. How do you use running, and how does your running now fund the food pantry? I don't explain this to me, right?
Yes, it's such a sweet deal. Yeah. So soon after I got here, there's another sister who's here, Sister Alicia Torres, who's known for winning Chopped on the Food Network. But in fact, she paid off her college debt by running marathons. So she paid off her college debt to join the convent by running marathons. So I heard about this sister. That's actually one of the first reasons I contacted her, because I was like, well, of course I have to contact them, because why would I not? Because this is obviously clearly a sign. So then we ran the 2010 Chicago Marathon together. I paced her, ran with her. There was like all these charities. I'm like, wow, I had no idea. It was my first foray into marathoning. I'd always knew I wanted to run the marathon. I actually knew in high school that marathon would probably be my best distance, because if anybody ever knew about my high school experience, they knew that I got kicked. Like I lost most races in high school by getting sprint pass in the last 200 meters of the race. So lots of me and Auburn, that happened all the time.
Mhm.
So anyway, I was like, why do we got to get into this charity thing? This is clearly a big money maker and would be a super fun. So the next year we started a charity team, and that was 2011. So we've had a charity team in the Chicago Marathon since 2011. We have grown huge. We now have over 100 runners on our team each year that run the Chicago Marathon. And we've raised over $200,000 each year past 3 years. And we've raised over $1 million cumulatively since 2011 to
Incredible.
support our work
And
here at
that
the mission.
all goes to,
It all goes directly to our work here on the west side of Chicago. It's our biggest fundraiser here at Mission of Our Lady of the Angels. We've renovated multiple buildings because of the marathon fundraiser and supported our operational expenses and outreach expenses significantly because of the marathon
incredible.
fundraiser.
So
Yeah.
it funds this food pantry, and you mentioned the numbers. Did you tell me you're feeding about 3 times as many people during COVID as you were
Yeah.
before even?
Yeah, we normally before COVID we served 1,000 families a month. Now we're serving about 3,000 families a month. Honestly, it's been more than that. In December we served 4,700 families.
Ah,
It was crazy. So it's just a lot of food. So
that is a lot.
so yeah, we've been so the marathon is a significant funder of the pantry.
That's just incredible. And
Mhm.
you brought up quickly these renovations, and I talked to somebody else earlier today, which I want to get into real quickly here in a second. Jared Richardson, another star runner from our area back a few years ago. I don't
Back
want
in
to
the
age
day.
myself, but yeah, right. Um, and I was young back then too, so I wasn't.
We were all young back then, Jay.
I know. Well, clearly you guys were. You were in high school. I just don't want people to think I was old like I am now back then too, because then I'd be really old. But I want to talk a little bit more about Jared in a second. But you get into how you've gotten this off the ground with the running and this recent marathon that you did on a treadmill.
Mhm.
All of it is just making everything go over there.
Yeah, it's been a huge factor in allowing us to do our work. Yeah, so pretty much what happened is that I obviously am blessed. I know a lot of runners. I know a lot of people that want to run marathons. So I started just contacting everybody that I knew. Plus, then people guaranteed entries to the Chicago Marathon. As you may, it's extremely difficult to get into the Chicago Marathon because it's a very popular race. And so I have guaranteed entries into the race. And when people agree to run for my team, they get all kinds of amazing benefits, such as being part of our amazing team. And then I will help coach people. There's someone who's praying for you. We have t-shirts. We got, if things are normal post COVID, you can stay here because we have a retreat center and then we'll like take care of you and drive you around and feed you race weekend.
Right.
If that's happening, it's a pretty sweet deal. And then, yeah,
We've done that in the past, right?
yes. Well, they canceled the 2020 marathon, but every year before that, we would have about I don't know, a quarter to a third of our runners staying here, and then we'd we drive them all around, and we bring them to the start line and everything.
And
Yeah.
now the renovation aspect. So not only does all this fund your food pantry and a lot of what you do at the mission, give me a quick tip on what these renovations are about, because Jared had even mentioned you guys are renovating right now an old school into this, is it a 65-room retreat
Yeah.
center?
Isn't that exciting? So, yeah, so I've become a construction manager. Isn't that awesome? So that's my coolest new thing I do. Yeah, so I kind of got thrown into this job because I'm really good at making phone calls and asking for free stuff. So that's how I got the job. So it's a sweet deal. So I've been blessed to be part of several renovation projects here at the mission. The first thing we did when I was here, we renovated Bishop Bob, who's in charge, who's the founder, renovated several buildings before I was here.
Okay.
We renovated the former church on site. We renovated a house on site. Now we're renovating the school building, which is well, this podcast could go on for hours, but I'm going to spare you. This is the famous location of the 1958 school fire that killed a lot of people. This is the building that was built on site at the time, and we're renovating that building to be our new outreach center to the neighborhood, which includes a 65-bedroom retreat center. so that we can house volunteers that want to come help us, as well as host retreats on site.
Well, even the site has a neat story. Wow.
Yeah, we got a lot of layers here.
Holy cow.
It's intense.
Um, do you have a target date? Like, is that a long ways off, or
no, this project's been going on for a couple of years. We're hoping by the end of 2021 for it to be done. It's been dragging for a while.
Is that another type of place where your running team would house up for the Chicago Marathon weekend?
Yes, that's where they'll stay from now on. We were using, there's more of us sisters now, so we now live in the building we used to house retreatants in, but now everyone's going to move over to this new building.
Very cool. So you will live there as well? That will be your...
No, we're moving the retreatants out of our house. That's the goal.
Got you. Okay, different.
Yeah, that's the goal.
We'll get your house back, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
That's right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you feel proud? Do you realize the good that you're doing with your life?
I feel blessed to be a bearer of God's providence to the world, to be honest, because none of this would have happened without the providence of God. It's the sense that we know that God has provided both infinitely in grace as well as in cash to make all of these things possible. So we know that, and he's provided people, materials, food. Like he provided the grace to turn me from what I was doing to, not that I'm perfect now, please, but like the sense that it really turned me to this sense that I was able to really make some big changes in my life and start me on this path of growing closer to Jesus every day. And he's provided all kinds of resources for us here at the mission. So yeah, I mean, I'm proud in that I believe that God has allowed these things to happen through our work here at the mission. But we would be sitting in an unheated, disgusting building, doing nothing without God's providence here at the mission.
It's such an inspirational story. And I mentioned Jared Richardson. He was a Harlem runner. So you guys were at different schools, but I think he graduated the same year as you, 2006. He went to U of I as well. He was like, I was just talking to him, I forgot, he was an 800 runner, which is like stuck in the middle. You don't know if you're a distance runner or a sprinter or what you are. But he's grown into a bit of a distance runner now at being inspired by you. And he volunteers with you, and he just had a really neat perspective on, and he said near the end of our conversation, he said, I told him what good I thought he was doing, and he said, I'm just trying to be as much like Sister Stephanie as I can.
That's Jared's too kind. Well, it's just been, our stories have been very hilariously intertwined since the beginning.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good.
And he's just one of the many, I'm sure, that you've touched. You realize how many people you've touched, right?
I mean, that's, like I said, it's really like, we know that God allows things to happen through people to bring him to his love. So we know that there's this sense of this capacity for God's grace, for his love to work through people to bring him closer to his heart. So we know that all of us, God wants to use all of us as instruments of his love and grace to the world to draw them to himself. So we all are just instruments that he would like to use if we allow him to. So
not all are as good at it as you are.
I
can.
Everyone has the tools to use the gifts that God has given them. I don't. After that, I got.
That doesn't tell the story of beyond.
Yeah.
You're taking that above and beyond with what you're doing. Are you building a new race team? Is that what we're in the process of right now? Give me a quick on what that entails and what that's.
Yeah, believe it or not, the Chicago Marathon registration for 2021 is going strong. And each day, and every person vaccinated, it looks more promising that this race may actually happen. Yeah. So if it's either way though, if the 2021 Chicago Marathon is canceled, Team Our Lady of the Angels will be running in an alternative race on a measured course that I designed. It's pretty sweet. It runs through a sweet meadow with sweet trails. We'll be running a marathon no matter what. So either way, marathon experience is guaranteed. We'd love anybody who's listening to join our marathon team, Team Our Lady of Angels. You can go
I
to
didn't even think of this.
missionola.com.
Yeah. Oh,
Sign up.
say that again. I was interrupted.
Missionola.com to sign up. And there's a link. There's a picture of a cartoon running nun with
Yeah.
a link next to it. So you gotta check it out. Yeah.
Like,
So
like-
missionola.com. If you don't think you run a marathon, you can. I will help you do it if you're willing to spend some time doing so.
Now, you ran the last marathon. Did you run it all in your as a nun with
the habit
Yeah,
on?
sorry.
No. So then the last marathon I ran was on a treadmill.
I know that's
Not
the
running the habit. No, I ran in a running skirt, which is like knee length, and like a bandana and a t-shirt. That's what I run in. I don't run the habit.
Okay.
I would fall, and I'd be really
just
hot.
as impressive. Well, that might be even more impressive though if you could do that.
Yeah.
So it's how much have you raised again? Did I hear 1.1
$1.1 million. Thanks be to
wow.
God.
Boy, when it's for the right cause, it can happen. Sister Stephanie Baliga, former Auburn and University of Illinois runner, and now a runner for God out of the mission of Our Lady of Angels in West Chicago. Such a neat story. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy feeding the needy and doing things to help people, which is just incredible. I want you to know a lot of us really appreciate what you do and who you are, and that's really, really cool stuff. Really.
Thanks to Rockford, I am who I am. God is good.
Yeah, teaches us. I mean, we learn a lot in those few years of growing up, whether it's from getting our butts kicked on the streets or on the running course.
On the track.
We were doing the butt kicking, I know, but
No, I was getting my butt kicked every time I left Rockford. So
yeah, well, you did it while you were here, though. We know that. Sister Stephanie, thank you so much. I would love to catch up with you. Maybe we'll podcast as you're running the Chicago Marathon.
yeah,
Up, or we'll do something fun. I'd love to.
we should have podcasted when I was running the treadmill marathon, but too late.
No,
Maybe I'll have to run another treadmill marathon so I can podcast with you, Jay.
let's do it. I would love it. I'll be there. I'll social distance, and I'll just won't have the camera on me as much, so I can puke and fall over and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.